Good morning, everybody. Welcome on into your FreightWaves Now Community Spotlight on this Tuesday morning. I'm Kaylee Nix here with Mary O'Connell, and we're back for another look at this week's episode of Check Call. Mary, thanks for joining us.
Anytime, guys. This is I like that this happens on Tuesday because Mondays are like Mondays, and this is like a fresh start to like get you energized and keep going throughout the week.
Yeah, it gets you excited. It gets you ready to get through that second day of the week. We've got another fine guest on the way for your Check Call episode this week, bringing back once again folks from Arrive Logistics. But today, you're talking all about the buzzword of the year, artificial intelligence, AI. Talk to us a little bit about it.
So I feel like AI is one of those horses that has basically been beat dead by everybody wondering, how does this affect me? AI, the whole nine yards. And it's one of those that, there are applications that 100% it's a wonderful use of time. And then there's some where you're like, did we really need to add AI to that? Kind of like, I imagine AI is going to become like Bluetooth, how everybody's like, oh, I have Bluetooth this, Bluetooth that. So we need to figure out how a Bluetooth fridge works out, but to each his own. Anyway, so I'm sure that today on this episode, we kind of touch on some of the more practical applications that AI has, whether that's, taking a bunch of data and kind of analyzing it for you and kind of helping you just work through it and come out with actionable plans from it, or finding a pattern. Like if you have a pattern of things that are not quite there, or you're like, I feel like this is a problem, whether it's, this at one specific accessorial keeps getting charged and maybe we need to mitigate it. It can do a lot for pattern recognition and stuff there. I might have a hot take here, Kaylee. I don't think that the future is an AI chatbot. I really don't. Because having used a lot of AI chatbots, they're notoriously pretty terrible.
I absolutely agree with you. The future does not lie in an AI chatbot because, as we've talked about a ton, AI is great about making decisions and making choices based on your input data. So if what you're putting in is trash, what you're getting out is also going to be trash, right? While us as humans have the ability to kind of gather that new information for ourselves, to make decisions on processes, and also to be empathetic to the people that we're dealing with. Artificial intelligence has no room for empathy. But you're so right, is that it does have a place when it comes to those tedious menial tasks where you have a ton of data and it needs to be analyzed, aggregated, and put into a form where people can start making actionable decision places on it. When it comes to using AI in brokerage, we hear about it a lot from back-end operations, right? Your accounting, your finance, things like that. We've been using it really for forever with Excel and formulas and with adaptable Google Sheets now. It's just AI that's kind of in a different nice package. But where else in the brokerage space do we see AI, and particularly that data aspect of it, really live? Is it in rating? Is it in quotes? What do we think could be a good avenue for that to be used?
So I think it's going to be a great tool to help, obviously, a lot of those back-end things. As a former pricing girly, when you would have to run certain macros for maybe you're running a bid and you're trying to process everybody's, like all the responses you get, and you're trying to figure out like who's the most competitive, who's not, and kind of generate all of that data. It's extremely helpful there because you don't have to set your computer on a macro and then, go get a cup of coffee, take a lap, and generally have about an hour of just killing time because you can't do anything else on your computer because your computer physically cannot process that much. So I think there's a great application for it here, but obviously so a lot of what I've started seeing is that if I am looking for a rate, so like if I'm someone and I'm looking for a rate from this broker, I can just fill out this form on their website and it'll return it. I think that's a great start. And I think that having it for if you have a robust kind of rate history tool and knowing like this is what we've done in the past and this is what the current rate is, I think that's going to be a fantastic application because it'll at least get your brokers in the right ballpark. So if I've been quoting this lane all week and the little assist AI says it should be $1,500, but I know that, it's been pretty hot in that market. So I'm going to need to add a little bit. I think that's a great place to at least get you to the ballpark, especially for some of those newer brokers who haven't quite figured out how how to kind of have that gut feeling and that experience of, okay, well, I've been running this lane all week, so this is what it should be. I think that's going to be a great tool there. But I think a lot of the heavy lift from AI is going to come from a lot of those back office supports, and maybe some sales and pricing combo working together to say this is actually what we can more accurately provide savings wise to our customers. So I think there's a case to be made for all of it, all of it throughout the organization. But I think it's going to help a lot of those back office or some of those not as glamorous as a freight broker roles. I think it's going to help do a lot of the heavy lift there, so that way those people can be freed up to do some more tasks for improvement.
One of the points that you and your guests make today is talking about demand planning and demand forecasting. And as we all know, that was one of the biggest struggles during the pandemic, right? Of course, we had this massive anomalous event, but still you had folks who either overcorrected and then ended up with way too much inventory and saw some really detrimental effects down the line, or who failed to correct at all and then didn't adjust their demand planning and then were left without inventory and again had detrimental effects that were a little bit shorter in timeline. AI's got a good space in demand planning because it's good at aggregating and analyzing big historical chunks of data. So if you were to take your inventory versus your sales or your inventory to sales ratios and have it look at that, it could spit out a pretty accurate demand forecast. Is that something that we're looking at AI being a good tool for? Is really demand planning, particularly when it comes to habitual buying cycles like the holidays?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be one of the biggest roles that AI can do. The only struggle that I see for demand planning in a brokerage is that sometimes, especially with newer customers, they're a little less forthcoming with their data. So it's going to take a while for, that. So if you kind of say, okay, we know we're going to be really busy October, November on these specific days in these specific cities and states based off of our history with our current customers. And obviously there's a mix of if customers drop or acquiring new ones. And I think with the acquisition of new ones, it's going to take a lot longer to get accurate, strong, historical data there. Just because I've yet to come across a customer that's like, oh, you want a year of data? Here you go. It's more like, you want 3 months? That's a lot. That's a lot. And it's like, okay, 3 months should not be a tall order, but it's actually really, really helpful. I could see it being very helpful if you have a diverse set of customers who have different peak seasons, because everyone thinks that peak season is, traditionally retail at this end of the year around the holidays. But, earlier this year in March and April, that's some of agriculture's peak season for seed shipping and other stuff like that. So each season kind of has, or each different industry kind of has its own peak season. And I think depending on what type of customer base you have, I think it could be a really advantageous tool to kind of say, okay, we have a hole in this area, so we need to go find someone whose peak season is around this time of the year. And so I think that could actually be a really strong tool for sales to go out and prospect accordingly, and for obviously the brokerage to make sure that they have enough staff and training and a good plan going into those busy seasons.
My next question and my final question for you really needs the help of an IT professional, because it just leads me to question, like, how do we have robust AI technology that is willing to operate on the actual computer machines that we have? Because I don't know if you've been on a brokerage floor recently, but 90% of your folks are working either off of a Lenovo ThinkPad or like an 8-year-old MacBook Pro that's been cycled from broker to broker to broker to broker, and honestly probably has way too much up on its hard drive to actually accurately run that. But we're not in IT, so we don't have to handle those problems. Just something for us to think about. Mary, for people who want to catch Check Call, where can they go to find it either later today or later this week?
Well, if your computer is still able to play YouTube videos, you can find it today on YouTube at 12:30 Eastern. But as having had those Lenovo's, Kaylee, it's a tall order. It's a tall order. But realistically, you can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, also at 12:30 today. And then if you want to read Check Call, the newsletter, you can check that out today at 2 p.m. And you can subscribe to that on freightwaves.com/checkcall.
All right, Mary, thanks for that. We will catch you later this week for Running on Ice.
Thanks, guys.